In the early 1930s, countries around the world were rapidly developing new ways to fight from the sky. Planes were getting faster and more powerful, and they started dropping bombs from above. This worried armies everywhere, and they realized they needed better ways to protect themselves. This is where the idea of anti-aircraft artillery came in. Think of it as specialized equipment designed to shoot down enemy planes. Among those racing to improve their defenses was Germany. Engineers and military leaders there wanted to create something that was light enough to move around easily in the mountains, but still packed a punch. This led to the birth of the 2-centimeter Flugabwehrkanone Gebirgsflak, Flakvierling 38, a cool-sounding name for a really important piece of gear. A few key people were behind this effort. One was Heinrich Vollmer, a German engineer. Vollmer and his team were tasked with making this new weapon. They needed something strong enough to hit fast-moving planes, but easy enough to carry around in tough terrain like mountains. They worked on improving earlier designs, taking what worked and making it better. Here's how they built the 2-centimeter Flugabwehrkanone Gebirgsflak, Flakvierling 38. It was a type of gun called a flak, short for Fliegerabwehrkanone, which means aircraft defense cannon in German. It used 4 barrels for firing 20-millimeter shells at a rapid pace, making it a Flakvierling, meaning 4-barreled in German. It was mounted on a platform that could turn in any direction, which helped aim quickly at planes flying by. Plus, it was small enough to transport with ease over rough mountain paths. But it was not all smooth sailing. One big challenge was creating a weapon strong enough to stop fast aircraft, yet light enough to move in the mountains. The German engineers had to balance firepower with weight. Another problem was keeping the gun stable when firing, so it could hit targets accurately, even when angled up for high-flying planes. Despite these challenges, the 2-centimeter Flugabwehrkanone Gebirgsflak, Flakvierling 38, became a key part of Germany's defense in World War II. It made a difference by helping to protect troops from air attacks, especially in hard-to-reach places. This was a big deal because it showed that having the right technology could change the course of battles. Today, when we think about the evolution of anti-aircraft artillery, the 2-centimeter Flugabwehrkanone Gebirgsflak, Flakvierling 38, reminds us of how important it is to innovate in times of need. It shows how creative engineering can meet the demands of modern warfare, shaping strategies and outcomes in significant ways. Understanding this helps us appreciate how technology continues to evolve in response to new threats in our world. In the late 1930s, tensions were rising around the world, leading to the outbreak of World War II in 1939. Countries needed new technologies to defend themselves and succeed in battle. Germany was one of them, looking for better ways to protect its soldiers and assets from enemy aircraft. Around this time, the German army wanted a more effective way to shoot down planes, and this is where the 2-centimeter Flugabwehrkanone Gebirgsflak, Flakvierling 38 comes in. Several smart minds worked on this design, but it was the German arms company Rheinmetall Borsig that played a major role in bringing it to life. Their team of engineers put their heads together to create something that would meet the Army's needs. The idea was to have a powerful anti-aircraft gun that could fire a lot of bullets quickly and accurately. The Flakvierling 38 was born out of this need. It is a mount with 4 automatic aircraft guns, each firing 2-centimeter rounds. Flakvierling means 4-barreled anti-aircraft gun, and it was based on the earlier design called the Flak 38. What made it special was its ability to fire up to 800 rounds per minute. This was a big deal during the war when aircraft were a major threat. In simple terms, imagine mounting 4 fire hoses side by side, each able to turn and aim up at the sky. Instead of water, these hoses fired bullets, filling the air with a dangerous hailstorm of metal. This setup meant that if an enemy plane came within range, it had a tough time getting away. Building such a machine was not without challenges. One of the main issues was transporting it. With 4 guns and all the equipment needed, the Flak-Vierling 38 was quite heavy. This was especially tricky when moving it to mountainous regions or tricky landscapes. Also, ensuring the guns worked smoothly without jamming during intense use required careful engineering. Despite these challenges, the Flak-Vierling 38 became one of the main tools for German defense. It was used on battlefields across Europe, mounted on trucks, boats, and even in some fortified bunkers. Soldiers found it helpful, not just against planes, but also against ground targets like infantry and light vehicles. Today, the Flak-Vierling 38 serves as a reminder of the rapid technological advancements made during wartime. It's a piece of history that shows how necessity drives innovation. Understanding this helps us appreciate the complex engineering behind military equipment and reminds us of the importance of preparing for challenges with creative solutions. In learning about it, we can better understand the impact of engineering on warfare and its lasting effects on technology. In the early 1940s, World War II was raging across continents. High up in the mountains, things got tricky for soldiers. The rough, steep terrain made it hard to use big guns effectively. Enter the 2-centimeter Flugabwehrkanone Gebirgsflak, Flak-Vierling 38, a special anti-aircraft gun. This was a time when everyone was trying to figure out how to fight better. Germany wanted to defend its troops in mountainous regions. The problem was that normal anti-aircraft guns were too heavy and bulky to move around in these areas. The German military needed something light but powerful. This led to the idea of the Gebirgsflak, also known as the mountain flak. A key player behind this was the German Army's technical team. They focused on creating a gun that was portable yet strong enough to fend off enemy aircraft. This was how the mountain flak was born. It designed by taking an existing, well-tested anti-aircraft gun and modifying it for mountain use. Here's what they did. The Flak-Vierling 38 was basically a 4-barreled gun. It could shoot a lot of rounds quickly. Imagine 4 hoses spraying water, all aimed at the sky. But instead of water, it was firing 20-millimeter shells. This made it really good at covering different directions and hitting fast-moving targets. But turning such a powerful gun into the mountain flak required some smart moves. Engineers had to get rid of extra weight. They used lighter components and made it easy to take apart and put back together. This way, soldiers could carry it piece by piece up rough mountain paths. Despite these smart moves, challenges remained. The high altitude could mess with the gun's operation. Thin air affects how gunpowder burns and makes engines run differently. Soldiers also faced extreme weather, like cold and heavy snow, which could jam weapons and freeze moving parts. However, once set up, the mountain flak changed the game. It helped Germany defend against enemy planes trying to bomb mountain forces. This gave soldiers on the ground a better chance to focus on their own missions instead of worrying too much about attacks from above. Today, this story matters because it shows how necessity drives innovation. Soldiers had to adapt to their environment, and their needs led to new technology. It's a reminder of how important it is to think creatively, especially when faced with tough problems. In military history and indeed in everyday life, adapting to your environment can be the key to success. During World War II, technology and strategy were constantly evolving. One piece of technology that played a key role was the 2-centimeter anti-aircraft gun known as the Gebirgsflak, Flak-Vierling 38. This weapon was developed by the Germans in response to the need for portable and effective defense against air attacks in difficult mountain regions. The Allies were dominating the skies, and the Germans needed a way to protect their troops and supplies from aircraft, especially in remote and mountainous areas where larger equipment struggled to reach. The main people involved in the story of the Gebirgsflak Flak-Vierling 38 were the German soldiers operating these guns. These soldiers had to be trained not only in firing the weapon, but also in setting it up and maintaining it under tough conditions. The designers and engineers who worked to create a gun light enough to be moved easily but powerful enough to be effective were also crucial to its deployment. Once the guns were ready, they were sent to the front lines. Imagine soldiers hauling this anti-aircraft gun over rough terrain. The gun itself had 4 barrels, allowing it to fire rapidly at enemy planes. Each barrel was 20 millimeters in diameter, which is about the size of your pinky finger. This might not sound very big, but these guns could fire up to 800 rounds per minute, creating a deadly wall of bullets that could bring down low-flying aircraft. Operating the Flugabwehrkanone 38 came with its challenges. Soldiers often had to move quickly to set up the gun when a plane was spotted, and aiming at fast-moving aircraft required skill and practice. Weather and rough terrain also made it difficult for these units to stay effective. Sometimes the guns would jam or equipment would break down, leaving the soldiers vulnerable until repairs could be made. Despite these issues, the Flugabwehrkanone 38 had a significant impact. It offered much-needed protection against air attacks in areas where other defenses were unavailable. Its presence allowed German supply lines to stay open longer and helped protect troops on the move, although it was not enough to turn the tide of the war. So, why should we care about the Flugabwehrkanone 38 today? This piece of technology shows how innovation can meet specific challenges. It reminds us that even in difficult times, people come up with creative solutions to problems. Learning about these innovations helps us understand how past conflicts unfolded and how technology shapes the strategies and outcomes of war. In the heart of World War II, around 1943, the battlegrounds across Europe saw some intense action. Both sides were constantly coming up with new weapons to get an edge. One of these was the 2-centimeter air defense cannon mountain anti-aircraft gun, known as the Flugabwehrkanone 38. This piece of gear wasn't just cool to look at, it was a game-changer in how battles were fought, especially in rough terrains like mountains. The main players in this story are the German troops who needed a way to defend themselves against aircraft while stationed in tough, mountainous areas. The Flugabwehrkanone 38 was a pretty clever solution. Designed to be light and movable, it could be broken down and quickly set up. That's why it was called a mountain anti-aircraft gun. Now, let's break down what happened. The Flugabwehrkanone 38 was put to the test during battles where the landscape was as much an enemy as the opposition. The Germans placed these guns on hills and other high ground to shoot down enemy aircraft. They worked a bit like a fast-shooting machine gun, but aimed at the sky. With 4 barrels, it could fire up to 800 rounds per minute. That's a lot of firepower. Technically, this gun was a bit different from others. It was a 4-barreled 20-millimeter cannon. You might wonder how it worked. Picture 4 straw-sized tubes tied together, launching small but powerful rockets at aircraft, zooming overhead. Soldiers aimed these guns using a special sight, making it easier to hit fast-moving targets. But there were problems too. These guns needed to be constantly fed with ammo, which could be tricky when enemy planes were diving at you. Plus, setting them up on a mountain wasn't always easy. Rain, snow, and rocky ground created all kinds of headaches. So, what was the result of using these guns? While they didn't single-handedly win the war or anything, they were definitely effective. Their ability to shoot fast and hit moving planes made them valuable. They protected important areas from air attacks and kept enemy pilots on their toes. Why does this matter today? Technology like the Flugabwehrkanone 38 shows us how people can adapt and innovate in tough situations. Even when fighting an uphill battle, quite literally, humans find creative ways to solve problems. Plus, understanding these stories helps us learn about the past, making sure we're ready for challenges in the future. During World War II, technology played a huge role on the battlefield. The 2-centimeter anti-aircraft gun, mountain anti-aircraft defense, often called the Flugabwehrkanone 38, is a perfect example of this. This story is not just about the gun itself, but also about keeping history alive through its survivors and artifacts. Let's start with a bit of background. By the late 1930s, countries across Europe were arming themselves for potential conflict. Germany, in particular, was developing advanced weapons. The Flak-Vierling 38 was one of them. This was a type of anti-aircraft gun that could quickly shoot down enemy planes. Designed for mountainous regions, this gun was portable and could be broken down into parts, which made it easier to move over rough terrain. The main people behind these kinds of technologies were engineers and military leaders in Germany. They worked together to create weapons that could give them an advantage in battle. Karl Bämmler, a key German engineer, played an essential role in designing anti-aircraft guns like the Flak-Vierling 38. His work contributed to the German defense against Allied air forces. So, what exactly happened with these guns? During World War II, the Flak-Vierling 38 was used on battlefields across Europe. Its design included 4 barrels, allowing it to fire up to 800 rounds per minute. Imagine how this could make it difficult for pilots flying in planes above. Crews of 2 to 3 operators would handle these guns, adjusting their aim based on sight and sound. There were many challenges. Despite its firepower, the Flak-Vierling 38 had problems with overheating due to rapid firing. Operators had to be quick and efficient under pressure, as every second counted in wartime. Transporting the guns up and down mountains and through rough terrain was also no small feat. After the war ended, many of these guns were left abandoned. Some were collected as historical artifacts. Museums and enthusiasts around the world strive to preserve them. These artifacts serve as physical reminders of a turbulent time in history. So, why does this all matter today? Keeping these artifacts and stories alive helps us learn from the past. They remind us about the significant impact that technology can have on warfare. Understanding history through these artifacts means we are more aware of how conflicts have shaped the modern world. By preserving military history, we ensure that future generations understand the complexities of war and the role technology plays in it. It's a cool way to connect with a past that has impacted our present and will continue to influence our future. In the years leading up to World War II, keeping the skies safe from enemy aircraft became super important. Many countries were working to build better anti-aircraft systems. Among these, Germany came up with the 2-centimeter anti-aircraft gun called the Gebirgsflak Flak-Vierling 38. This was a type of cannon used by the German military, especially in mountainous regions. It was compact, which made it easier to move around in tough terrain. This gun was designed by a group of smart engineers led by a guy named Reinhold Becker. His team was part of the Rheinmetall Borsig Company, a big player in weapons manufacturing in Germany at the time. They were tasked with creating a weapon that was not only effective, but also easy to move and use. Enter the Flak-Vierling 38, a 4-barreled weapon that could shoot up to 800 rounds per minute. Although it had a short range compared to some other guns, it made up for that with its rapid firepower. This meant it could quickly fill the sky with bullets, making it hard for enemy planes to fly through without getting hit. Using the Flak-Vierling 38 wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. The crews that operated these guns faced a bunch of problems. Setting up on rough mountainous terrain was tough. Also, even though it could fire really fast, it still needed a constant supply of ammunition to keep going. Keeping up with this was a real challenge. Despite these issues, the Flak-Vierling 38 earned a reputation as an effective defensive tool. It played a big role in protecting troops and important sites from air attacks during the war. But the real impact of this gun came after the war was over. The lessons learned from using it stuck around. Engineers and military planners looked at what worked and what didn't, using these insights to build better anti-aircraft systems in the future. Today, anti-aircraft systems have become way more advanced, using radar and guided missiles instead of just bullets. However, the basic idea of having something that can react quickly and cover a wide area with firepower remains the same. The Flak-Vierling 38 showed the importance of versatility and speed in air defense, concepts that are still important in modern military strategy. Even though we live in a time with drones and high-tech jets, understanding how we got here helps us see the bigger picture. It reminds us of the past challenges and the clever solutions people came up with to tackle them. This historical piece of technology shows us that sometimes the answers of yesterday can shape the tools of tomorrow.